I've spent most of my life looking down a steel throat. My old man worked stations, switches, paperwork, yelling at dumb conductors. I went the other direction. I wanted the cab. I wanted the feeling of 100 cars hooked up behind me, rolling throughout the dark. I hired on in the 90s, when a crew still felt like a crew, 5 guys easy, sometimes more than that. By the early 2000s, they'd whittled us down to 3 on most of the runs. Corporate efficiency, do more with less, automation. These days, crews are just 2 people now and a whole lot of robotic assistants. That winter run was across Colorado, grain hoppers and tankers, a long snake of freight behind us, pushing empty across the country where the stations are more suggestion than actual reality. You get these stretches out there where it feels like the tracks are the only thing human beings ever built. No houses, no farm lights, just snow hills, the cold, and the endless dark on all sides of you. It was me in the lead unit, my engineer Rick, and a brakeman named Torres riding the second engine. Good dudes. We'd run together enough that the silence between us felt okay, not awkward or even questionable. We knew each other's habits and each other's tells. That stuff kind of matters when something looks wrong. Lets you know if you should react or not. When you work a train with somebody you don't know, you're constantly waiting for them to do something wrong and derail the whole machine. I remember this night in particular very well. The cab heater only half worked and it warmed the other side. The snow blew in loose sheets instead of a full whiteout. The radio would hiss and pop whenever we heard a clear cut and rolled back out into open country. It was cold enough that the rails sang underneath us. If you hung your head out the window, it would literally rattle your teeth. We were 3 hours into the rides when I saw the first drops. I had a paperback open on my knee, one eye on the gauges out of habit. I lifted the binoculars and swept the track ahead of me. Headlights carved a tunnel through the snow. Right there between the rails, something dark crossed the ballast. At first I assumed coyote, some kind of roadkill, something fairly normal. Then we roll over it and I see the red. I leaned toward the glass and took another look. The smear we hit was not oil, it was blood, fresh, dark, and right between the rails. Puddles from something moving down the tracks now. It's all along the snowbanks just off from the train. We keep on rolling and I twist in my seat to watch it pass by, then pick up the radio. "Torres, you catching that trail?" Static, and then his voice came from the rear unit.
"Yeah, looks like blood. A lot of it."
Rick at the controls beside me lets off the throttle a little bit. "Could be a gut-shot deer," he says. "Yeah, maybe," I return back, but I've never seen one run the ties with its guts falling out. The droplets get bigger, then they stop being droplets at all, just a continuous smear that stains the ballast, cutting a red line across the snowbank. I grab my binoculars again and scan forward. A shape sits off the right side of the right-of-way, cloth heavy, and as we approach, it becomes recognizable. "There's a jacket up ahead," I say. Rick sees it at the same moment. Damn. It's a winter parka thrown open, half buried in the snow. The entire piece of clothing is soaked with more blood. I key the mic. "Dispatch, this is 731. We got a blood trail at least a half a mile long, plus discarded clothing, heavy bleeding, no obstructions to track. Over." Dispatch comes back nice and calm.
"Copy 731. Continue on. Sheriff's office notified. Report additional items as found. Keep an eye on the track."
"Will do." I hang the mic. The cab around me feels tighter now, like the train has shrunk a little bit around me. Then the next items show up. "Right rail," I say. 2 socks, both stained, one torn neatly in half. A few hundred yards later, a balled-up t-shirt drags along the ballast, frozen stiff. It slaps the side of the rail as we pass it. Torres then radios in again.
"You ever see a deer take its clothes off, boss?"
I don't laugh. "Eyes open. Look for track obstruction." The blood then continues uninterrupted. Too much for an animal, too irregular for a dragged body. Someone was moving on foot. I jot the nearest mile marker down and scan again. Another patch of clothes then shows up, jeans caught on a rock. The legs are knotted together, the thighs are darkened from waist to knee. Rick mutters something about an accident under his breath. This doesn't match a fall, I say. If somebody fell off a train, we'd see one single impact, not all this trailing carnage. It could have been running the right of way, Torres said. People do stupid shit out here. Running and shedding clothes? I ask. In this cold? I lift the binoculars. The lamps then catch something further up ahead. Small, scattered white shapes directly on the ties. Not snow, bandages. Dozens of them. Some rolled, some torn apart, stuck to the rails like they've been dropped in a hurry. Bandages ahead, I say. Track still clear. Copy, Rick says. He straightens up and his hands are firm on the controls. The train continues to hum underneath us. Every 20 or 30 yards, another cloth scrap just appears. A glove, another t-shirt torn and covered with blood. I key up again. Dispatch, additional note, we're seeing medical materials, bandages, gauze, directly on the track itself.
Copy 731. Sheriff's units are en route to Route Station 83. Continue unless obstructed.
The curve ahead rises on the right, a long bend around the low rock formation that we passed 100 times over. I look over and tell Rick, ease it down, let's give ourselves a look. He throttles back another notch, not enough to cause issues with the air in the line, but enough for me to feel the change. The nose dips slightly into that curve. I brace myself, binoculars up. These bandages get thicker, bunched up now in these small piles. Something else is sitting near them, a boot. Just one, sole up. The leather is chewed and stiff. Torres then comes over the radio.
Boss, whatever happened here, they didn't walk away clean. There's gotta be a body out here.
Stay sharp, I respond back. We haven't seen anybody yet. We roll a little further into the curve and then the world shifts. A steep rock face rises to our right. About halfway up its shelf, a natural ledge wide enough for a couple of trucks to park side by side. The snow atop it is disturbed, not melted, not wind patterns, foot traffic. Rick, I say, look right. He does, and his hand then freezes on the throttle. There's a man sitting on the ledge. He's leaned up against the rock, legs stretched out, cigarette smoke drifting from his mouth. His coat is gone. His shirt is torn at the sleeves. His left arm is wrapped up in bloody bandages from wrist to elbow. Fresh trails of blood are out from underneath them, bright as paint. He lifts his cigarette like he's greeting us, this casual wave. No panic, no call for help, just a wave. Jesus, Rick says. The train then thunders past him, and I can't look away. The man's face is raw, weathered, streaked with dirt and dried blood. His eyes follow us the whole way around that curve. I grab the radio. Dispatch, we have a live party on the right side ledge at the curve before RS 83. Male injured, appears conscious.
Do you require emergency stop?
I watch the man fade behind us, sitting and watching, cigarette ember still glowing. No, I say. Track is clear, continue. We move in open country. The blood trail finally disappears behind us and Torres comes on again.
Boss, did he wave at you?
Yeah, I say back. And Rick doesn't speak for a long time. Nobody does. For a while, none of us say anything. The train settles back into its usual noise, but the cab feels different now, like we were passing through a vacuum. I keep writing notes because it's something that I do. Male on ridge, heavy bleeding, conscious, no distress signal. Friendly? Dispatch calls in again.
713, sheriff's units are arriving at RS 83. Confirm last sighting.
I read the coordinates back to him.
Affirmative. Injured male on the shelf above the curve. Track clear.
Copy. Continue as planned. I hang up and Rick keeps his eyes on the rails, but I can tell his mind is still back at that curve. Torres remains quiet in the second unit. A few miles later, the lines open up into a long prairie. Snow and nothing else. No blood, no clothing, just empty country around us. Torres breaks the silence.
You think he wanted us to see him?
He saw our lights. He could hear us from at least a mile off, I say. Hard to say what his goal actually was. He didn't seem like he needed help though, right? I can't argue. The man on the ridge wasn't panicking. He was waving, or maybe trying to flag us down. He looked completely aware, and that's the best word I have for it. Rick finally speaks up. Guy loses that much blood and sits up smoking in that temperature? He needed help and probably didn't even realize it. The police will help him. They have to. I shrug. Yeah, that's the best case. What were we gonna do for him? But even as I say that, I know it doesn't answer anything. We're not doctors. We aren't prepared for a fatally bleeding stranger. We hit our checkpoints, finish the run, and swap crews. Before Torres climbs down, he stops in the doorway and says to me, "Just so I know, he was really there, right?" "Yeah," I tell him. Rick nods and all three of us confirm. Later that morning, dispatch forwards over a short sheriff's report. Blood trail confirmed, clothing collected, medical bandages found, no subject located, search ongoing. And it's the last line that sticks with me. 5 days later, when I'm back on shift, I ask dispatch if any update ever came in. He scrolls and squints at his monitor. Sheriff closed it out," he says. "Said the guy probably moved on before deputies got there. Might have found a road or a ranch house. Happens more often than you think. A lot of vagrants out that way." I thanked him, but that explanation doesn't tell me anything. The man we saw was not wandering or confused. He'd left miles and miles of blood and clothing behind him, patched himself up repeatedly. He'd made it to a high ledge in freezing weather and just sat there waiting for something. Maybe us. Who the hell knows? He acknowledged us, and that was it. No shout, no gesture for help, just a wave like the whole situation was completely normal. It made me think we saw some kind of ghost out from the Old West. And every time I've run that stretch ever since, I look toward that shelf and never see anybody there. But I still check. It's automatic. My new normal. Whatever the hell happened out there didn't end neatly. Someone survived long enough to leave half themselves along the right-of-way and sit upright watching a freight train pass. And the sheriffs never found him. I was 21 the winter that I almost died. I'd left Phoenix before dawn, cocky and undercaffeinated, driving a 99 Corolla that rattled every time I took it over 60. I was heading east through the high desert, cutting across northern New Mexico toward Texas. Nice, long, empty highways. I'd done that route twice before in the summer, when the worst thing that you had to worry about was a shredded tire or a jackrabbit. The weather app said it was clear, cold with a little light wind. Nothing about the sky closing in on me. Hell, this was the Southwest. Storms and blizzards aren't really our thing out here, so I didn't give it any thought. But by mid-morning, the world around me had gone gray. At first, it was just a haze on the horizon, like some dust coming up. Then the light started to dim. The first flakes hit my windshield, slow, lazy, and pretty, actually. I remember thinking, snow, that's different. I turned on my wipers and kept my foot steady on the gas. 10 minutes later, those flakes were the size of quarters. They slapped the glass in wet bursts, smearing any clear vision that I had. My wipers were crap, rubber peeling, leaving these icy streaks. The defroster fought the cold and was easily losing. A film began to creep up on the inside of the glass, so I wiped it with my sleeve, smearing it more in the process. As you can imagine, this was a problem. Now, I should have turned around then. I should have taken the last exit 20 miles back, but I was 21, broke and stubborn, halfway between where I'd been and where I needed to go. I gripped the wheel tighter and told myself to quit being so dramatic. I was already in New Mexico. I couldn't just flip a switch. Next, the wind kind of rose up out of nowhere. It shoved my little car in these hard, unpredictable gusts. Snow rolled across the asphalt in little waves, filling the ruts left by the previous trucks. My tires were bald as cue balls, losing grip every few seconds. Little slips that would jolt my heart right into my throat. "Stay straight," I muttered. "Just stay straight." But the storm continued to thicken up. The horizon now vanished. The sky, the road, and all the fields melted into the same white blur. The world around me shrank into a weak swing of my headlights and the faint shimmer of lane lines already half buried under fresh snow. But I kept driving. Minutes turned into eternity. My hands were aching from gripping the wheel so hard. I dropped my speed to 30, then to 20, then whatever felt slow enough not to die and fast enough not to get stranded. If I got stuck out here, there would be no getting out. There's no other cars, no other headlights, no taillights, just white, falling, swirling, drifting across that asphalt in front of me. The road was not plowed. 2 narrow trenches ran down the middle where trucks had carved their way throughout earlier. On the other side, snow was piling up like walls. Any small drift that I hit tried to drag the Corolla sideways. My bald tires were not going to win any fights. "Come on, don't overcorrect," I whispered to myself. My dad used to say it every winter. "You jerk the wheel, you die." A hard gust then shoved my car. I slid half a lane before I finally caught it, and for a moment, the road vanished completely, swallowed up by that storm. I eased off the gas and steered the car back into the trench. My heart hammering so loud, my chest started to hurt. I barely took a breath, and under my coat, I was beginning to sweat. Time got strange, slow. The heater hummed, but almost did nothing for the interior. The windshield continued to fog, perhaps from my own frantic breathing. I didn't even bother smearing it again. My phone, of course, showed no service. The storm had indeed swallowed everything now. Then I took note of lights, 2 faint blurs in the rear view, growing brighter. Relief shot throughout me. A plow. It had to be, right? I slowed a little more, planning to let it pass so I could just follow its tracks. My shoulders finally loosened up. Then the lights started ripping. I checked my speed, 25. The headlights grew until they flooded the mirror. I flipped it into night mode. It was still very blinding though. Okay, just go around me, what the hell? But instead the lights locked onto me. I couldn't tell exactly how close they were, but my gut said that was only inches. The glare washed out everything. Snow lit up and vanished into the beams, like sparks hitting a furnace. The truck finally swung left. When I saw it through the side window, tall and heavy, plowing through the snow like it wasn't even there. When it reached my window, I turned my head. It wasn't a plow. A lifted white Chevy Silverado, caked in ice and mud, these off-road tires, a bed full of lumber held down with loose ratchet straps. No company markings, no reason to be out here in the storm. The passenger's window was halfway down. His arm rested on the edge of the door, bare and freezing in the wind. A faded tattoo wound across his forearm. Something faded that I couldn't quite make out. I couldn't see the driver, just a silhouette. They both turned and looked at me. Those pale blue eyes locked on me, washed out and empty. Not curiosity or recognition, just this flat stare. We drove side by side for a few seconds, the wind continuing to howl around us. Then he drifted toward me, the passenger smiling like a complete psycho. Not a sudden swerve, more like this slow push. His fender slid closer to my mirror. I eased over to the right, but the shoulder was nothing but deep, uneven mounds of snow. The tire hit one and pulled hard. No, no, no. I corrected left, and he drifted with me. Our lanes became one thin strip of asphalt. His massive truck owned most of it too. The Chevy's side loomed so close that I could see rust along the bottom of the doors. My mirror started to rattle. "Just pass me, please," I said aloud. But he didn't. He eased in again, then backed off like he was testing the boundaries, seeing how close he could get without actually making any contact. The wheel twitched as I hit a patch of ice. I steadied my car again. My mouth was dry as I mulled over my options. Then his engine roared beside me. The Chevy pushed ahead a few feet, then dropped back beside me again. The man did not break eye contact the whole time. He lifted his hand off the door and pointed one finger straight at me. Then he slowly turned his hand sideways and pushed it through the air. "Get off the road." I shook my head without meaning to. No, no way. The truck drifted over again, closer this time, close enough that I heard the whine of his tires in the snow. My car skidded right. I fought it, kept it on the only strip of pavement that was left, but he kept leaning, and I was running out of road. He dropped back behind me, and for a second I thought maybe this was all over. He'd finally gotten bored, hopefully. Or maybe the storm made him rethink whatever the hell game he was playing with me. But then, that first nudge hit the back of my car, soft, almost gentle, like somebody bumping a foot up against the rear bumper. Then he hit the fucking gas. The Corolla jerked forward, tires slipping. My breath caught as the wheel became useless now in my hands. "Oh, don't do this." Another nudge, harder this time. The truck's headlights filled my mirrors, white, blinding, swallowing the entire back half of the car. Snow whipped between us, horizontal, driven by the storm and our speed, 40, maybe 50. I didn't dare look. tapped the brakes. The Corolla fishtailed, and behind me the truck surged forward and bumped me again, keeping me going the speed that he wanted me to. I tried the brakes again and smelled smoke immediately. I wasn't driving anymore. I was being pushed. The steering wheel vibrated underneath my palms. Every small turn was meaningless. The car wanted to slide, and the storm wanted to bury me. He wanted whatever he wanted. I still don't know to this day. His engine growled behind me, rising and falling like an oversized heartbeat. Then he began to swing the truck side to side, letting his bumper tap my rear fenders, left, then right, little flicks of force that almost sent me spinning. I fought each and every one, hands locked, breath tight. I'm gonna make it through this. Another tap came, harder. The back of my car slid left and I corrected. He hit the right side. I corrected again, slower this time, because the wheel wasn't answering like it should have been. Tires skimming across hidden ice, road turning into glass underneath me. "Stop!" I screamed. But the next hit was not gentle. It slammed into the left fender and the Corolla just gave up. The back end spun. My world twisted in front of me. Headlights, snow, darkness. Headlights, snow. The tires screamed with every rotation. I tried to steer into the spin, but the car had no grip, no fight, no chance. The ditch then rushed toward me, white, huge, and waiting. I closed my eyes during that final spin out, and my car crashed with this muffled thud. My head snapped forward, the seatbelt locked and crushed my throat. Snow exploded around the car, covering the windows in the thick layer of white. The engine coughed and then suddenly died. And then for a moment after that, everything was silent. The truck roared past me. As it did, I heard a man yell something that I couldn't quite make out, followed by a bottle bursting against the roof, showering the car in a beer that froze before it could even slide down outside the car. He never slowed, he never checked to see if I was alive, just tore off into the whiteout and vanished. I sat there shaking until the adrenaline finally wore off, my phone finally finding this flicker of service. I called 911 and gave them nothing but guesses about where I was. It took an hour for the officers to come and the tow truck to reach me. The cop checked me over, listened to my story, and swept the highway for that Chevy. To my knowledge, they never found it, of course. He said the locals like to drive crazy during these storms, sometimes messing with pass-through traffic. And I guess it's just my lucky day.